world are congregating to discuss out the world economic situation, and it's also interesting that we had the recent Oxfam report, as has been said already, that shows an increasing and massive transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. A number of people have said a different amount of numbers of people. The one I have is 62 people, that is 53 men, have as much wealth as the poorest 50% of the world's population, has been said, 3.5 billion people. That's a massive amount of people for that amount of people to have. And the top 1% now own more than the other 99%. What a world we're living in when we have a situation that has transferred that amount of wealth to that top 1% over the last decades. A Oxfam spokesperson said this accelerating inequality was a result of policy choices, and I agree with them. Those policy choices are precisely the policies being negotiated in TTIP, I believe. TTIP, in its essence, is about strengthening the position of transnational corporations and further weakening the rights of workers and trade unions. And it's not only myself that believes that, but many trade unions, NGOs and people believe that that is happening. It was in secret since 2001. It was kept behind closed doors, and only when people started asking questions were governments and ministers and MEPs forced to step out of that dark room. It seeks to open up public services to these corporations and to reduce regulation across a wide range of things like food safety, the environment, banking and the rights of national governments. Deputy Pringle mentioned the mutual recognition and harmonisation, and I'm particularly concerned on food safety, for example. TTIP will try to bring, I believe, EU standards closer to those of the US. 70% of all food sold in the US supermarkets contain genetically modified ingredients. In the EU, it is none. The US allows growth hormones in beef. The EU does not. The EU has much looser regulation on the use of pesticides. The EU currently bans 1,200 products for use in cosmetics. In the US, just 12 are banned. The EU has admitted TTIP will cost jobs in Europe. NAFTA, a similar agreement to TTIP involving the US, Canada and Mexico, has caused the loss of 1 million US jobs as opposed to the increase that was promised when it was first initiated. TTIP is a threat to democracy. One of its main aims is investor-state dispute settlements, the ISDS, which will allow corporations to sue governments if government policy cause a loss of profits. That's the reason why it's there, and it's one of the most insidious parts of TTIP as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, Minister, but I simply don't believe the points you made earlier on, your promises on workers' rights, safety laws, environmental laws, public service and regulations. The whole purpose of TTIP is to weaken these areas to facilitate transnational corporations. And that is why MEPs in the European Parliament voted to postpone the decision on TTIP in the summer, reflecting the huge concerns of ordinary people and the pressure that has been put on MEPs. 3.3 million people...
Modified ISDS go ahead based on the Commissioner's new proposals.
3.3 million people have signed up in the EU to the Citizens' Initiative against TTIP. That's a massive amount of people. That's a massive amount of concern that people have in relation to this deal. The attempt to negotiate this deal in secrecy behind the backs of people has failed. It is now out in the open. People are increasingly aware of it, aware of its contents, and are massively opposed to it. And I believe that as these negotiations go on, that this government, or the new government, will have to sit down and actually tease this document out with every line to see how it's going to impact, every single line, how it's going to impact on our societies. And I welcome the fact that I could speak on this, because I'm very, very seriously concerned about it.
Thank you.